Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you news as it relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yeshua Hawkins. Well, we have the Pope in the news once again, and also we're going to look at some of the effects of depleted uranium that's been used in a lot of weaponry, as well as the hundreds of missiles that are ready at a moment's notice to be launched. But first, we're going to look at the fact that the Pope is about to issue the Catholic Church's first ever teaching on climate change in an encyclical after his visit to a Philippine city devastated by Typhoon Haiyan. It will be sent to the Catholic Church's 5,000 bishops, and the 400,000 priests will distribute it to its parishioners. Now, globally, there are about 1.2 billion Catholics, 75 million of which live in the United States. Francis also plans to address the UN General Assembly of the world's main religions in hopes of boosting awareness of next year's UN Climate Summit in Paris.
The Pope also called for protection of the environment from human greed. Now, in his prayer in St. Peter's Square, he asked the Lord to, quote, look upon our planet frequently, exploited by human greed and rapacity. And by that he means the excessive greed.
Yeah, wanting more.
That's right. He said, help and protect all the victims of natural disasters, especially the beloved people of the Philippines gravely affected by the recent typhoon.
Interesting. Well, there's a call right now for the Catholic Church to work at changing the system, and it's interesting they use the word system there, which produces deforestation and climate devastation. In the meeting with other world religious leaders, the Pope plans to build a global consensus to force, they actually use this word, to force, to bring about action prior to the UN summit in Paris that we just mentioned on climate change. Now, at another event, another UN summit in Lima, Peru, Pope Francis wrote a letter to the organizers stating that climate change will affect all of humanity, especially the poorest and future generations. And what's more, it represents a serious ethical and moral responsibility, unquote. And it really does, because it's the morality and the choices that people have made that have brought about this climate change.
The Pope also recently prayed for an end to war and epidemics on New Year's Day, almost like a New Year's resolution that he was making. He called on the world to end slavery and human trafficking.
Almost sounds like there's no answers, just making these calls and praying, but I guess we'll see what takes place. Now, also, while the U.S. Senate prepares to vote on a non-binding resolution on whether or not man-made global warming exists, the Pope also weighed in with his most forceful comments on the subject to date. As he spoke with reporters on his plane flying from Manila to Sri Lanka, actually to Manila from Sri Lanka, he said that the majority of global warming is man-made, a view that goes right along with mainstream scientists. And of course, this has stirred debate within the Catholic community as well. They're not without controversy there. Some believe that the world is God's creation, and that it is arrogant to think that humans could ever play such a dominant role over nature.
Well, let's look back at last year for a moment. In 2014, the Pope was very busy. Early in the year, he ousted the Bishop of Bling, Tabats van Elst. Then he spoke against the violence in Gaza, Syria, and Iraq. And if that wasn't enough, he also was instrumental in facilitating negotiations between the U.S. and Cuba, which we just heard so much about.
Right, not too long ago. But for 2015, the Pope's agenda is focused on climate change, calling it a religious mandate. Now, while some are questioning the Pope's motives, as to why is all of a sudden he's so
They're suspicious of it.
Yeah, they're suspicious. Why is he so interested in climate change all of a sudden? Others are relying on the Pope's master's degree in chemistry. So when he consults with environmental scientists, he has a greater understanding of what lies ahead because of that background in chemistry for the Earth and its inhabitants.
Well, the Vatican commissioned 24 scientists to study the effect mankind is having on climate change. The report warns of the possible irreversible impact of global warming. They also give the grave warning that if no action is taken to improve the situation, we will see the disappearance of glaciers that supply drinking water to millions of people, and more communities will be threatened by floods and mudslides.
It seems like we're kind of really to that point already. Well, the co-chair of the report was Professor Ramanathan, an atmospheric scientist from the University of California, San Diego, which they have in fact been having a lot of those mudslides taking place in that area, California that is. The idea of Anthropocene is at the heart of the scientist's report. Now, of course, this is the idea that mankind's activities have actually pushed the Earth's ecosystem into uncharted waters. And that will last, of course, as the scientists say, for thousands of years, the results of these things. They suggest that the effects of climate change can still be lessened by making steps to reduce the carbon footprint of mankind.
Well, shifting our focus now from global warming to some other form of global defilement, one of the most dangerous sources of uranium is nuclear weapons. Now, YPN's Larry McGee has our story on the American missile silos and just how owning a nuclear weapon could bring massive destruction. Larry, just how many of these bombs do we have stored away?
There is at present approximately 450 Minuteman III missiles housed in underground silos, active and ready for launch upon the president's command. Those missiles, of course, represent one of the largest dangers to humanity, not just for their explosive potential, but for the uranium they contain, which experts warn has the potential to produce irreparable cellular damage, as well as birth defects and cancer amongst offspring, and could take all of 1 billion years, yes, 1 billion years to cleanse from the Earth's environment. The bunkers exist as a part of the U.S. nuclear triad, which also includes U.S. submarines and U.S. bombers. As global analysts report, the drumbeats of nuclear war growing increasingly louder. There has come with it what many believe to be supporting evidence in the form of major shakeups to the U.S.'s nuclear forces. In the year just past, an entire Air Force chain of command at a nuclear missile base responsible for 1/3 of the U.S.'s land-based missiles was fired following evidence of drug involvement and cheating on military tests. This, of course, has brought much negative attention to the American Missile Corps, which has now allowed reporters a rare opportunity to glimpse its setup. In it, a web of underground hardened pressurized cables connect the bombs to buildings, which are guarded by remote control miles away in pods 70 feet underground. The control rooms are attached to shock absorbers and encased within a protective shell of concrete and steel. Military personnel and any would-be visitors must descend to the quarters by an elevator and pass through a door weighing 8 tons before finally standing before 2 missileers who watch over and operate the missiles in 24-hour shifts referred to as alerts. The pods contain complete living facilities with any one command monitoring as many as 10 missiles at a time. 3 switches and 2 keys, which are locked in a strongbox, are necessary to launch the missiles, with each missileer only having the combination to 1 strongbox and thus only access to 1 key. The day-to-day maintenance operations make the pods a near constant hub of activity, and this has been the setup that has played itself out incessantly over the last 50 years as a part of the questionable American strategy of promised retaliation as a nuclear deterrent, which is also known as the doctrine of mutual and assured destruction. During the course of the past 50 years, particularly during the Cold War era to which the present times are currently being likened, what many citizens might be unaware of, but is being revealed by an author author Eric Schlosser in his new book, Command and Control, is that the U.S. came close on a number of occasions during the Cold War to having its own weapons detonate on American soil. There was a rocket fuel explosion in Damascus, Arkansas, which caused the evacuation of local residents near Titan II missile complex in 1980. Then there was another incident where engineering skill is being credited as one of the only things which avoided a nuclear catastrophe. In that case, an individual dropped a socket in a missile silo. The socket fell approximately 70 feet, pierced a missile, and caused a tremendous explosion. And what has to be the most heart-stopping instance of them all, however, on another occasion, 3 days after the inauguration of President Kennedy in 1961, an Air Force B-52 had mechanical problems and dropped a nuclear bomb over Goldsboro, North Carolina. When the bomb hit the ground, the signal was reported to have been sent, but a lone safety switch prevented the detonation of a powerful nuclear bomb, which would have destroyed untold numbers of people and property, proving and demonstrating just how easy it is, even if just by accident, for those who live by the sword to die by it. For YPN News, I'm Larry McGee. Katan Jeff, back to you.
Seems like in a time where everybody's calling for peace, even the Pope, we still are itching and ready for war at a moment's notice.
Right. Well, while the Pope may be sounding the call for his followers to become more aware of what they are doing to the earth, only Yisrael Hawkins knows the real cause of global warming and how to put an end to it. Now, this great wisdom cannot be found in mankind's schools of higher learning, but it can be found in the inspired writings of the Bible. Now, find out what's been hidden in the scriptures for thousands of years that can truly put a stop to the destruction of our atmosphere by contacting the House of Yahweh today and requesting your free Prophetic Word magazine and monthly newsletter. Here's how.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Visit them on any of their websites at www.yahweh.com, www.yisroelhawkins.com, or www.yahwehsbranch.com. You can email them at info@yahweh.com. And for any calls outside the United States, please call the number on your screen.
Well, don't go anywhere. Up next, another powerful message from Yisrael Hawkins. From all of us here at YPN News, I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
And I'm Katan Alexander.
Thanks for watching.